すごいよこれ。家とかあったらやばそう。すごいです。すごい渦です。竜巻が終わりそうです。雨がすごい。
People in Japan will be relying on nuclear-free power next month for the first time in more than a year. The operator of the last 2 reactors still online plans to halt them for regular inspections. Kansai Electric Power Company wants to shut 1 reactor at the Oi plant in Fukui Prefecture on September 15th. It's already applied to stop the other on September 2nd. Japan took all of its nuclear reactors offline for checks after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. The Nuclear Regulation Authority allowed the OE reactors to restart after they passed new safety guidelines. Operators of 5 other nuclear plants have also applied to put their reactors back online.
Surprise, it won't come as a shock, 'cause I never believe their lies. When the bombs fall, and they could fall any time, they're gonna end it all for a third of mankind. When the bombs fall, don't have the wool pulled over your eyes. When the bombs fall, you'll wonder how you've been so blind. When the bombs fall, and if they fall on me, my dear, you better look to the sky, 'cause your redemption is near.
Hello, welcome from Beijing. You're watching CCTV News. I'm Wang Mengmang. We begin in Japan, where the operator of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant says radiation at a storage tank has spiked 18-fold, a level so high that it can kill anyone exposed within hours.
Now let's get more on one of our headlining stories. Radiation levels around a leaking tank at the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan are 18 times higher than was originally thought. New readings showing levels of radiation high enough to give a lethal dose to a human being in as little as 4 hours.
So this is a reading that has been taken at the same tank that leaked water last week, or about 10 days ago. And what we found out today is the reading that was taken on Saturday has shown radiation in water around that tank is actually 18 times higher than was initially thought from a reading that was taken when the leak was discovered a little over a week ago. So initially they said that they thought the radiation level was about 100 millisieverts an hour. Now they're saying 1,800 millisieverts an hour. And what's more shocking about this is the reason. Apparently, according to Tokyo Electric Power's spokesman, the equipment that was used to take the initial reading just over a week ago was only able to read up to 100 millisieverts, and now they're using much more sensitive equipment that is able to read up to 10,000 millisieverts, and they have suddenly taken a reading of 1,800 millisieverts, 18 times higher than before.
The operator of the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant has detected extremely high levels of radiation on some of its storage tanks. Radiation at this level can kill a person in 4 hours. Officials of Tokyo Electric Power Company announced on Saturday that high levels of radioactivity were found in 4 areas in the complex where tanks containing contaminated water are located. The utility has been monitoring more than 900 storage tanks since about 300 tons of radioactive wastewater leaked from a tank on August 20th. TEPCO officials say one of Saturday's readings was 1,800 millisieverts per hour. Radiation at this level can kill a person in 4 hours. In another area, radioactivity of 230 millisieverts per hour was measured at a puddle underneath a pipe connecting tanks. No change of water levels was detected at the tanks, but TEPCO believes new leaks are possible. It's checking whether contaminated water has reached the ocean. TEPCO officials say one of Saturday's readings was 1,800 millisieverts per hour. Radiation at this level can kill a person in 4 hours. In another area, radioactivity of 230 millisieverts per hour was measured at a puddle underneath a pipe connecting tanks. No change in water levels was detected at the tanks, but TEPCO believes new leaks are possible. It's checking whether contaminated water has reached the ocean.
Professor, how can they have got this so terribly wrong?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know. It smacks of a rather amateur approach to this problem, which is a serious problem. But I understand, although one measurement gave 1,800 millisieverts, 2 or 3 other measurements that they made at the same time only gave 70 and 80 millisieverts, and that this high value only came from one drop of liquid which had been extracted from the tank. Well, these may be, all wrong. In fact, the top bottom of it is that if the figures that they mention are correct, then there's a scale of nuclear accidents, and this accident will be raised from 1, which is the lowest figure on the accident scale, to 3, which means it is a serious accident, but it can be contained and things can be done to put it right and all the rest of it. But it makes me think that perhaps TEPCO are struggling to deal with this, and they could do with a bit of assistance from other people around the world who are accustomed to decommissioning nuclear power stations and the like. Okay, so pardon me for interrupting you there, but point number 1, how dangerous is this contaminated water now? And point number 2, what are they doing with it? Well, the contaminated water is dangerous and you don't want to be involved with it. That's why it's being stored in a series of very large tanks. What has leaked is one of these. What do you want? Is one of these tanks. What will happen in the end is that the levels will be perhaps more carefully measured than have been measured up to now, And then it will be worked out how much dilution of that water is necessary before it's just put into the sea. And that won't present a problem. And perhaps you should realise that the sea is radioactive, amongst other things, contains uranium and various other things. So diluting it, which is what they'll have to do, and it's a fairly tricky chemical engineering process, and then it will be put into the sea.
Professor, we must leave it there. As ever, the clock's beaten us, sir, but thank you very much for your time.
Earthquake drills are being held across Japan on Sunday. More than 1.3 million people are expected to take part in various exercises throughout the day. A government-led drill this year is based on the scenario that a magnitude 9.1 earthquake in the Nankai Trough along the Pacific coast devastates much of western and eastern Japan. An emergency task force was set up at the Prime Minister's office shortly after 8 a.m. Government officials decided that they would take charge of allocating food and medicine in view of the extensive damage. A joint drill was also held in Chiba Prefecture, east of Tokyo, simulating an earthquake striking directly below the metropolitan area. Emergency drills are held every year on September 1st because the date marks the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake.
Well, that measures is something that the Japanese public are questioning because this incidence of leakage has been repeated in the past year or so, and TEPCO said they cannot deny the possibilities that the water is leaked into the sea as well, and they are under investigation. As you said, they have found new leaks in 4 different places, and but they said that it's not a sort of huge leak. They've asked and also prepared new containers to move the waters, but the work is going slow due to the high radiation. As you said, it's 1800 millisievert, which is deadly if you're exposed to it for a few hours. So the investigation and also the work is going slow, but TEPCO is trying to reassure people that it's under control. But
I'm also reminded of a statement by John Mitchell back in the Nixon presidency days when he said, "Watch what we do, not what we say."
Public are questioning, well, it's been repeated so many times, what can they do and what can the government do?
And there have been repeated reports about leaks of contaminated water at the plant, sparking anger and concern in Japan. So tell us, what does this crisis mean for residents there, especially farmers and fishermen?
Well, fishermen have already stopped test fishing indefinitely. They have not decided when to try again until the situation is under control in Fukushima. And they are somewhat compensated, but worried that a fishing industry might die out in the coast of Fukushima. And farmers are also worried that water is seeping into the underground water sources, but more so that the radiation scare will affect, and that's a great worry for the farmers of Fukushima trying to recover. And also the displaced residents are now trying to decide whether they're going to settle in for long term or whether they will seek possibilities of going home. But at this rate, many of them felt that they will never be able to go back to Fukushima again.
Well, life for them will never be the same again. Thank you so much, Terrence, for your report from Tokyo.
Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diane, and today is September 3rd, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. All right, let's first go into the Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Let's see here. Okay, we have Fuego Volcano of Guatemala increasing lava emission with pyroclastic flow. Avian flu outbreaks reported in Italy and Mexico. Peru snow state of emergency extended to more regions. Did a volcanic eruption induce the summer cooling spell? Climate change driving spread of crop pests and disease. Wow. Heads up on that. Okay, moving on. We have a big show tonight. Big show. My power keeps going off and on after the storm, so that's why I'm going to try to run through this pretty quick. Most of it is uploaded already. It's a big show with Dr. DEAGLE and all kinds of stuff. Everything's on it tonight. TEPCO, TEPCO, no irregularities at Fukushima nuclear plant following Japan earthquake. Coming out of Reuters. Mari S. Also, that was like 32 minutes ago. This is the breakingnews.com. Also, radiation readings at Fukushima reached new high in suspect tank area, regulator says. Coming out of Reuters World. Senators craft Syria compromise with 60-day deadline and possible 30-day extension for military strikes. Coming out of Political 40 minutes ago. USGS puts magnitude of earthquake near Izu Islands, Japan at 6.5. USGS 42 minutes ago. Okay, and before that, Tokyo rattled by earthquake, broadcaster NHK says primarily magnitude is 6.9, 47 minutes ago. So they just had this earthquake. Flooding evacuations reported in Audubon Valley west of Pocatello, Idaho, per emergency manager. Breaking weather 1 hour ago. Alrighty then. Let's move on. The Watchers watching the world. Strong and shallow magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck Haida Gwaii region in Canada. Turmeric, the return of the golden goddess. Oh, okay. The health benefits on it. I believe one of them is that it shrinks tumors. That's why it's turmeric. Okay, that's all that's new on the Watchers. Let's move into E&E News, Japan, Fukushima. Today, UC Berkeley nuclear professor worked to go on for thousands of years at Fukushima site if they can't retrieve melted fuel. See, that's called job security there. Nuclear expert on CNN, organized denial at Fukushima. TEPCO not in control at all. Very worrying. I remember. Don't you remember when TEPCO kept saying it was stabilized, everything's stable? Yeah. You're going to still leave them in control. Professor Fukushima, unit number 4, an immediate problem. Building is sinking over 30 inches in places. Extraordinary possibility. Plant could be back at March 2011 if situation continues. Risk of fusion, accident, and fuel pool. Fukushima number 4 fuel pool is perhaps the greatest threat to humanity has ever faced. Wow, that's coming from a CEO. Nuclear engineer on radio. Unfortunately, the truth is there will be a large death toll from Fukushima. Damages to be seen over the next century. Disaster at plant is unprecedented in magnitude. TV, Fukushima could be out of control for next 100 years, says nuclear expert. Facing a huge problem. Very, very serious threat from magnitude 6 quake. Scary situation. Well, they just had almost a 7, so let's see what's going on here. It's not, the quakes aren't even on here. Alrighty then. Nuclear expert, melted fuel is exiting Fukushima site. Very effective way of it being dispersed to humans far away from plant. Situation is beyond man's control. 3 or 4 times Chernobyl's radioactivity available for release. It's more than that. And it's been more than that. Alright. U.S. Canada. See, they're just starting to report on it. Let's see how far back myself and some of the other people have reported on it. Since when, I don't know, never mind. I'm going to say, are the people in charge, or do they lack some type of common sense and education? How's that one? I still say they're all incompetent. Even the ones reporting on this, they're all incompetent. They never bothered to follow it. Well, now it's going to bite them in the ass. I don't care. They have all done crimes against humanity by not reporting on this. And the place, ignorance of what's going on, just like ignorance of the law, does that stop you from going to jail? No, it doesn't. So, guess what? All those people are probably going to end up in some kind of crazy prison for the rest of their lives. NBC Nightly News. Concerns are growing tonight, especially out west, about the continuing radiation threat from Fukushima. Japanese diplomat. U.S. food supply stands to be contaminated. Oh! Let's say it again. NBC Nightly News. Concerns are growing tonight, especially out west, about the continuing radiation threat from Fukushima. Japanese diplomat. U.S. food supply stands to be contaminated. Wow. What does that mean, EPA? What does that mean, all the other politicians? Too worried about what's going on the other side of the world? And you got a major conflict of security and whatever else going on with this Fukushima? Huh? Oh. I guess it's more important to be out there. No one's going to be around to drive your damn cars, are they? And you're not going to make any money because you're all going to be dead also from all this radiation. Do you understand? Your money is not going to cure anything. Do you understand that? In fact, most of you guys are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity. And if it's not this generation, it's going to be the next one. So the golden years are going to be in prison somewhere. Just picture that one. If you survive. That's if you survive. Alrighty then. And all you mainstream actors and actresses that can't afford the internet and all the intel coming in and out of there, don't think that we don't know that you weren't privy to this information. All the people with all the money, we know you were privy to the information. It's like if you're you know, it's called guilt by association. So all people out there didn't report on it, didn't the scientists, the journalists, all those people, it's all guilt by association. You withheld information. You purposely withheld information that is going to kill a lot of people. Do you understand? So you guys are going to be brought in on charges too. Oh well. And I'm sure a lot of you are going to, we'll hear about all the heart attacks. They can't hide that on the news. Because if you're in the mainstream, and you're a mainstream actor or actress, you know, they can't hide that. All of a sudden everyone's having heart attacks from the cesium, which it's starting to show up, isn't it? You're hearing about a lot of heart attacks, all ages, aren't you? Alrighty then, I am so mad about all this. And for ABC, NBC, NHK, NBC, ABC, MSN, Reuters, and all of them are starting to report on it. They're all going to jail too. They had the information, they had the intel. Oh, we didn't know it was that bad. How did the people on YouTube find out? Wasn't very hard, was it? We're all reading the same information. You decided to withhold information. And it has nothing to do with starting a panic. There's no one going to be left to panic. It has nothing to do with it. It's called criminal activity and guilt by association. There you go. Because you knew. ABC authorities on U.S. West Coast concerned with stunning news from Fukushima. Radioactive water is pouring out every day and headed our way. It's been doing that for more than 2 years. Do you understand? And I don't think it's so stunning. Alright. NBC up to 30 becquerels M2 of Fukushima cesium to hit U.S. and Canada. Contamination transported to coast for next 6 years. Contamination transported to coast for next 6 years. Concerned about impact of strontium-90. Do you understand there's uranium? What about the plutonium? What about the radioactive xenon? What about all the other ones that are in there? Uranium. Well, we're not going to report on those too? Oh. And the gamma rays and the gamma beams and you know the flowers are starting to glow. Look carefully, some of your flowers are starting to become fluorescent where they weren't before. How's that one? Alrighty then. Sorry for that rant, but it's just, you know, God's going to judge them. That's it. That has to be what's going to happen. And the earth is alive and it's a living thing. And I believe it's going to be natural selection. And I believe natural selection will take out something that's doing the planet harm. Even if it is guilt by association. How's that? I think the planet's going to get ready and just take a bunch of... not just the innocent bystanders that don't know what's going on and refuse to care and go about their lives. I think it's also going to take out some of the evilness of some of these people that refused and allowed it to keep going. Refused to comment on it, to let people know, to put together teams to go in there. No. And then to try to build more nuclear plants. More nuclear plants. Now, do you think that we were better off with Tesla's invention before Westinghouse decided to take it over? And I think Westinghouse has to do with these nuclear plants, doesn't it? Am I wrong? Don't they have something to do with the nuclear plants? Look how evil these people are. Westinghouse, GE, General Electric. Man, what's going on? Well, alright, I'm just so upset about all this. I'm sorry for the rant. But it's just how it is. If you have no purpose, natural selection will take you out. You know, and then if you have some kind of destructive purpose, sometimes natural, from homeostasis of the planet, natural selection will take you out. Alright? Just remember that. And Jesus, God, it's watching everything. You know, didn't he ever take out the bad people before? It's all through the Bible. Be ready for that one, too. Alrighty then. I'm going to put on Dr. DEAGLE and a whole bunch of stuff. Sorry, I'm just so upset about all this. To watch them start reporting on it now and go, ooh, like it's something new? It's not. It's been going on all this time. Alright? And I've tried to warn my friends, and they just go, oh, sure. Oh, we would have seen it on the news. Well, surprise! You're starting to see it now, aren't you? And then they just mildly say, it's been leaking 300 tons. Oh, I think since the accident started. And those people think that now that they're reporting on, whatever it was all because of money. They didn't want to lose their jobs. It's all about money and greed. That's all it's about. And they didn't warn people because they wanted to keep their jobs. It's about money and greed. They decided they want to build more of these things. They know it's going to destroy the earth. The reason why they don't want to decommission any of them is because they probably don't know how to turn it off. It still stays on. Even though it's unplugged and whatever they do, they're stuck for a very long time, maybe hundreds of years. I don't know how long does that stuff burn for. They can decommission it, but it still keeps burning. And what does it burn? Oh, I don't know. Do you think it will burn up all our oxygen? Our oxygen? You think this stuff is going to burn up all our oxygen sooner or later? What do you think? And then what are you going to breathe? And then what's going to happen? Alrighty then. So, because of, I got to support my family. Oh, I better not say anything, I'll lose my job. Oh, I want to make more money off these things. Oh, alrighty then. I guess all of you will burn in hell, one way or another. Alrighty then, take care and stay tuned. Always be prepared for anything. Alrighty then, take care. I'll see you on the flip side.
Special Forces, you're a forensic criminal investigator. You know how to look at evidence, and you have contacts inside the military and various places. You've been doing this broadcasting and teaching for well over 20 years. So, and your scientist colleague, Ann Morrison's keeping an eye on Earth changes, major air plagues, UV light problems, which we came up with another interesting theory today, but we'll leave that to later. What's the latest news, John?
Okay, Dr. Bill. Well, thank you for having me. I've learned that the elite families, when I say the elite, the top 20, 30 families in the United States, many of them are leaving the United States for about 90 days, beginning the third week of November. We don't know why. We can speculate why, and we all know the various speculations. Some of these families might be returning after about 90 days to stay another 6, 8 months, and then leave permanently. Not a good thing, and for all the reasons that are very obvious. Another source, an intelligence individual in the U.S. military, is about to retire. He told me that when SEAL Team 6 came back from Afghanistan, they were brought into a meeting with President Obama, face-to-face, not a video conference, but all these men, including the President, were in the same room at the same time. Apparently, the President did not like the order given to SEAL Team 6 to execute Osama bin Laden, and he asked these men who shot bin Laden, and all the men raised their hands, which on the face of it is insubordination to the commander-in-chief, something that they easily could have been court-martialed for. Later the same day, these same men resigned from the U.S. Navy SEALs, and SEAL Team 5 shortly thereafter became the SEAL Team 6.
Wow.
That's the inside word. That's the inside word. And to have a insubordination in front of the commander-in-chief is, I don't know if there's any precedence for it in U.S. military history. I strongly doubt it. I'm certainly not aware of it.
What's his psychology? What do you think happened there? Why did they do that?
They're going to, these men all raise their hands because they're going to protect and take care of their own. They're not going to let one guy, one of their team members, go down for following orders and shooting bin Laden.
Right. Well, I want to make a couple of statements. Firstly, the guy that was shot there was not bin Laden. Bin Laden died of renal failure and was published in papers in France and elsewhere years ago. Number two, Saddam Hussein was 3 inches taller, had straight teeth, and wasn't hanged after being grilled. They never found the quote weapons of mass destruction even after they tortured him repeatedly because he was a double. He was 3 inches taller. When his wife walked into the room in the prison and asked for her husband, she just threw her things down in disgust to the floor and said, "This is not my husband. Who do you think you are?"
She did.
I mean, let's face the fact. If your wife doesn't know who you are, and the man brought to him has crooked teeth and 3 inches shorter than, he never had back surgery or fell from with a little parachute and hit the ground, that's why he was 3 inches shorter. No, this was not Saddam. We have what I call a scamtastic thing going on here, where Saddam was selected by George Bush Sr. personally on the streets of Baghdad to be a protege to set up and become the butcher of Baghdad. He was our bad dog. And when he turned, they went after him, just like they went after Mubarak. We have a situation now where Al-Qaeda is our Al-Qaeda. They're not the Al-Qaeda that's involved with terrorism, such as Al-Qaeda that might have been involved with 9/11, as they try to say. No. These are good Al-Qaeda. They're bad dogs, but they won't bite us.
All right, I'll go for that. Doctor, if John Kerry's speech was accurate, if John Kerry's speech was true, it would be the first time since 1812 that the U.S. would be going to war for a legitimate reason, and I don't believe it's true.
No, America never goes to war for a legitimate reason.
Well, we did in 1812.
Well, we did, but that's only because the British were ticked off at us, and they really just came down to burn the White House because the Canadians and British came down, burned it, and left. There was no real war. There was no winning. There was no loss or gaining of territory. There were no, people need to grasp what really happened here. This was a tip because people were ticked. They weren't getting the deal they wanted. Well, they wanted America back under their wing. They wanted America to be a part of the British, Commonwealth. The whole thing was like a fight between relatives after people got a bloody nose and there were some broken teeth. That's what it was about. This was not a true war, was it?
Well, that's true. But the point is, these wars just keep coming at us and coming at us. They serve no good purpose.
Only collapse disorder and the food problems is ultraviolet light. And if you actually look at it, I'm going to be posting this up later, if you look at the number of causes, and usually they'll list something like 10 causes for the loss of the bees, or APIS. The real issue is ultraviolet light is the one that ultimately ties all these little guys together. And why don't you explain what you're thinking there? Because this also ties in with reduction of the immune system of the population of people and animals. It increases the chances of plague spreading. It increases the chances of a drop in the ability of the world and the benthic layer of the oceans and plants to cope. So the forests die and you have forest fires, where you have death of the phytoplankton in the oceans, and the oceans turn red as the bloom of dinoflagellates occurs, creating domoic acid that's a neurotoxin, non-competitive acetylcholinesterase inhibitor that blocks acetylcholinesterase, and the animals, the fish, suffocate in the oceans, and the oceans literally physically turn blood red. People need to understand we are literally in the end times. We're at the time of Moses, my ancestor. We are literally at the time when God is sending plagues to get people's attention, and they don't get it, do they?
Yes, they don't get it, and God is sending the plagues. Your listeners are going to hear this first on your show. I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that there's a connection between colony collapse disorder among the bees and ultraviolet light, and I'm basing that on studies that have been done on other insects, where half the larvae die, and the metabolic activity of the insect slows down, and they die. And
it also photoactivates either toxins like fungicides and pesticides. So when it goes through the bee's body, the ultraviolet light activates it. It activates GMO toxins like Bacillus thuringiensis and plasmids that generate neurotoxins. We call it the taco chip from hell effect, where the bee gets pollen in them that affects the plasmid, gets inside their gut bacteria. Now their gut bacteria are a factory for Bt toxin, which is 10,000 times more toxic than you can imagine. So it fries their little bee brain. They get what I call Beheimer's disease. And if you look at everything from malnutrition, it is a list of things they say: malnutrition, pesticides, genetically modified crops. I'm going through the list here. Migratory beekeeping, where they move the bees all over the place. Lack of genetic biodiversity, beekeeping practices, parasites and pathogens. You're talking about a weakened bee. If you give ultraviolet light to any insect, it weakens them and makes them overcome by pathogens. They talk about toxins in the environment, and they talk about climate change and electromagnetics. Yeah, electromagnetics scramble them because they can't find their way back because of geopathic stress lines. But the ultimate and tying together all cause that amplifies everything is UV light. That's amazing, isn't it? And you helped to inspire that when you started our research today before the show. So that's a big announcement. UV light, UVC especially is doing it. Story to tell us that'll tie in with this is to say you have to pay attention to the little things around you. If you're a real detective, I tell people the most important thing, like Leonardo da Vinci, Aristotle, all the great philosophers, the most important thing to become, quote, truly wise or intelligent is just ask better questions. You don't have to be a photographic memory. You don't have to read every book in history. Just ask better questions and look at the world without cognitive dissonance, where two things that are out there totally disagree with each other, and you can't accept both equally when they do. You have to reconcile that. So, John, tell us your story.
Well, it was 2 years ago this weekend, Labor Day weekend of 2011. I drove across the entire state of New York, east to west, at night, all night long, and maybe hit 3 bugs. Now, during fuel stops, you know how the gas stations have these very large lights to illuminate the parking and gas area. There was almost no bugs flying around those lights either. And you mentioned off the air how it would seem like a B movie, science fiction. Well, we were getting that, myself and my traveling companions. We were talking to each other and thinking, man, this is really strange. Something's not right here. You know, it's a very warm summer night, and we're driving at the speed limit, 70 miles an hour, and there's maybe 3 bugs on the windshield. Wow. It was scary. It was scary. Yeah. Well,
that's pretty bizarre. Now, here's what I'm going to refer back to 1997. In the fall, I spent an entire night with Dr. Isley, the founder of the World Constitution Parliament Association, under the United Nations, and signer of the World Federation of Earth documents, which are signed by 100, at that time I think by 167 nations. It's a non-government organization, but it's directly linked to the UN. They're the ones who are actually one of the main ones organizing geoengineering the upper atmosphere, and there were a number of reasons for doing it. First was to change the reflectance of the Earth for a coronal mass ejection so it doesn't knock out the power grid and communications. And of course the satellites are above that. They're above 80,000 feet. So it's mainly going to be the power grid and ground-based communications and automobiles and electronic gizmos. Second is that they were hoping to block the changes in light spectra, because remember, I mentioned this on Rence's program on here, Dane Wigington thinks it's all just geoengineering. There's 3 factors, and the number 1 factor is the sun is putting, from day to day, quite a bit more ultraviolet light out. And the reason for it is we have the approach of a red dwarf star, and I refer to it as the Passover star. Some people call it Planet X. It's not Planet X. It's not a planet. It's a dwarf star. 80% of the stars in our galaxy of 400 billion stars, 80% have at least 2 stars, or binary star systems, and many have more. There's some of as many as 6 stars. This is the hyperelliptical orbit. If it's a red dwarf, which I believe it is, it has a very powerful magnetic field. It's at least double the distance to Jupiter, so it's not in the inner solar system yet, but it's coming in at a hyperelliptical angle, and it pushed these hyperelliptical comets in. We call the Ison comet, and what's the other one, Anne, you mentioned that's coming next year? Sighting Spring. And there was also another one we missed that happened a month ago that grazed the sun. And these don't have to be big either. They can be relatively small, just a kilometer or less apart. It went in, it was so close to the sun it caused a massive superstorm, and the CME just missed us. And they had a video on the internet of a former CIA director with a panel of top intelligence people publicly talking about the fact that, whoa, this just whizzed past Earth. This is like hearing, if you're in a military operation, special forces, hearing the whiz of a bullet by your head. If you can hear the whiz, you're not dead, as they say.
That's right.
So, yeah, this is not good, okay? People don't understand it. We had Dr. Michio Kaku. He literally is one of the few times you see Michio's eyes get really big. And when you see a real smart Japanese person and their eyes get big, take them seriously. Because what they're talking about, you better pay attention. And when Michio says there's 40,000 scientists that are freaked out by this, and they present it to Congress, they talk to the president, they've done all this stuff, but they're pulling their hair out, and they're not getting action. This is really crazy. We need to harden the grid. We need to understand that these people put up something to supposedly protect the Earth, but it's accelerating the degradation of the ozone layer. And now we got Fukushima, a major bad ace card thrown into the pack with the radioiodine, xenon, all the other radioactive gases, because they're charged and releasing electrons and alpha particles and gamma. They're speeding the degradation of the ozone layer dramatically. And that ultraviolet light is a primary driver of the failure and death of our trees. And Emily, you add something here. The death of our bees, the death of the benthic layer of the oceans. There's now 20,000 dead zones in the oceans around the world. 20,000. Some of them 100,000 square miles or bigger. People don't understand how bad this is. This means the Earth has got chronic obstructive pulmonary disease where it can't convert carbon dioxide to oxygen. And I've said this over and over again. The Earth can't wear an oxygen concentrator and a 2 liters a minute mask. What I see coming, if we don't wise up and realize that we're nearing what's called peak oxygen, we're going to end up living, and by the end of this century, if there's any residual population left, in domed cities. Domed cities. You'll see these sci-tech movies out there. This is not something just sci-tech. I tell you, the planet is a living organism, and it's getting COPD, and every time you turn your engine over, if your car was a little kind of efficient car, or a big SUV, you're not just burning gasoline or diesel, you're burning algae. You're burning the oxygen given off by leaves of trees all over the planet. You're giving oxygen by the plants in your house, your garden, the food that's being made with the crops. You're literally, without the combination, you cannot turn over an engine. And our world is based on oil, and we have other alternative energies, and it's not a matter of peak oil. There's no such thing as peak oil. If we used all the oil in Venezuela, it's been calculated by physicists and chemists, the number of teramoles of oil would drop the oxygen concentration on planet Earth to 0, which means nothing that requires oxygen would survive. Get it out there. Oil is not created by ferns and dinosaurs. It's created by the nuclear reaction of the Earth. It's abiotic. It's 40,000 feet down, long below where any dinosaur ever lived on planet Earth. So, John, add some comments to that.
Well, I think that John's observation, he said this on his show, but we hadn't made the connection between the lack of insects and UV radiation at that time, but we did note it. And now I've noticed that they do have studies out where they are looking at insects and the effects of ultraviolet light on them.
Yes.
And the USDA, when they test these pesticides, they have to say that they're safe for the bees, because the bees are an important part of our economy. Right. Well, they don't factor in the UV factor.
Well, the UV can not only fracture the molecules, it can photoactivate it. If you give, for example, Levaquin, which is a drug which is a DNA gyrase 4 inhibitor, that's how it works. And it can affect the DNA gyrase of bacteria as well as your cells, your mitochondria, because there's DNA gyrase 4 in both. If it's photoactivated, it's so damn toxic, it's crazy. So you can't go in the sun if you take Levaquin or moxifloxacin. Doctors don't tell you this unless they, because most doctors really, they don't read the package insert. They know so little biochemistry you can write in a cigarette wrapper. I call them dinodocs. They're dangerous. The most powerful thing they have is their pen and their script pad. They have the magical script pad. People need to grasp this. When we say this on the show, you're going to hear it first here. The planet is dying, but we have faith in our Most High God's going to rescue us and our planet. But we need to stop doing things that are hastening the demise of our world. And going to war in the Middle East is not really a positive thing when you have a planet with COPD and the economy is failing and food supplies are crashing and the trees are dying. It's not good. Welcome back. John, when I was looking at the Drudge, I saw this really interesting picture here of Hafez al-Assad's son on Facebook daring Barack Obama to attack. And I guess he's a graduate of the Montessori school in Damascus. And he's a smart little character. And I said, what did he say here? 12 hours we waited. 48 hours they said we were waiting. They may have the best army in the world, maybe the best airplanes, ships, tanks than ours. But soldiers, no one has soldiers like the ones we do in Syria. If you ask me what rank would I rank American soldiers, I wouldn't rank them the worst because the worst are soldiers, but America doesn't have soldiers. What it has is some cowards with new technology who claim themselves liberators. They say they supported the revolution, but actually they made it. Right now, we're all Syrian. Doesn't matter if you are with or against, because that's democracy, the ability to express yourself in your own words, your own way. So when people say that they are against the regime, it's fine, but there's a difference between those people with the people who claim or flag green. I mean, it goes on and on. It's quite amazing. I mean, you can tell this little fellow's thinking things through, and it has come out now that the chemical weapons were given by Israel with America's agreement back in January to start a false flag under Obama's order, and in cooperation with the British and other two different factions in the so-called Syrian Free Army and Al-Qaeda, they packed these into containers to make the attack on Syria palatable. I mean, this is craziness, and we need to expose this stuff. These people like Obama can get the radiation detectors. We're going to have a pyrophoric fire probably in the next couple months, if not sooner, in Japan, which is going to hit us with a radiation cloud. People need to start doing hazmat. What are the key steps they need to do so that they're ready for hazmat when there's a giant radiation cloud strikes America and the Western world? And by the way, it's also going to get to south. There's an oceanic current that carries it to New Zealand, Australia, the west coast of South America. There's no place safe on the planet from the ocean currents that in 26 months carry this radiation to every ocean on Earth. And when the ozone layer decides to go poof because of major surge of radiation isotopes from Fukushima Daiichi added to the geoengineering of the planet and the output from the sun, we're going to have the death of the oceans, which is, I'm going to prophesy today, the oceans shall turn red like blood, just like an ancient Nile river. And it's happening not only with the blood revolution there, but they're going to turn red because it's a judgment. It's God saying, I'm going to get your attention, people. You're going to start paying attention and you're going to start repenting. And if you repent, I will heal your land, as it says. But if you don't repent, mankind is going to die. Our planet is going to die. Our civilizations will fall.
Well, we're on the way now. They say that the radiation from Fukushima will still be coming over here in 100 years.
How about add a few more zeros, 100,000 years? Not only that, the radiation level, if there's a pyrophoric fire, could be right now, and most places is double to quadruple the background radiation. Sometimes it's up to 20 times higher. Idaho and Colorado and elsewhere you've had surges. We're talking about radiation levels above our current level by 20 to 100 times. Levels where it makes it so damn dangerous to go outside, you're going to get a massive dose as if you're inside a nuclear reactor when the thing goes critical and they lose control of the reactor core. I mean, we're talking about something that's really bad here, and people are like, well, no, I think maybe you're wrong, DEAGLE. I'm thinking, damn it, you better listen to me, and you better start realizing you better have HEPA filters, duct tape to seal off your windows, food and water and other resources. You better be able to hunker down for 2 or 3 weeks, because remember, these will be in burps. And if you have your radiation detector outside and you're looking at it and you say, oh, looks like it may be safe, it might be 2.5, 3 weeks, it might be safe again. You have to also make sure that your trees are protected from radiation. If you're growing fruit outside, so you've got some way of protecting them. And you got to be able to, even if you're taking roof water, you got to filter it because it's going to contain radioisotopes. You got to realize that the water you're getting that's considered, quote, potable comes from reservoirs that are coming off mountains, etc., laced with radiation. These bioaccumulate. They're not going away. They're going to change the eggs in your little girls so that they're going to have monsters for babies. You need to realize when I'm telling you this ugly truth, and I'm not saying this just as Dr. DEAGLE, I'm saying it as a prophet, I'm telling you that God is asking a question. He's asking for ultimately for mankind's repentance. It should be the two most wonderful nations on earth, America, who's done great good, and the most wonderful nation on earth, Israel, and both are like the dragon, and I consider Israel the penis of the dragon. We're really, really, really screwing the world over. And this proxy war they want to do with Syria is one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen in my life. And if they think they're going to roll over the Syrians, the two toughest people on earth are Syrians and Russians, and it's going to be a walk in the park, you do not ever want to pick a fight with a Russian or a Syrian. Because they won't just kill you, they'll kill all your relatives until your name is expunged from the earth. This is not the smartest thing to do. This is craziness.
Well, we're messing around in a part of the world that we have little comprehension of, Doctor. Their history, their culture, the makeup of these people. It's an ancient culture with traditions going back many, many centuries.
My great-grandmother is Syrian, and I can tell you right now from knowing my Syrian relatives, this is a place that would make those in Sicily or the mafia or any other nation quiver in absolute terror if they cross the Syrians or if they cross the Russians.
The Syrians in St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown, have a very well-deserved reputation for being people you don't mess with.
Yeah, you absolutely don't mess, and they're not afraid of dying, but they're a different culture. That's why the ancient Assyrians were so feared thousands of years ago. You have to understand, right down to their DNA, they are not a mess around with people. They're kind, they'll give the shirt off their back, but gosh, do not cross them. They'll give you the gold off their mantle, but don't cross them.
Do you feel the aches and pains of your age? Do you often feel
cruise missile? But guess what? The Russian cruiser destroyers can hit 1,500 to 2,000 miles away, and they can sit in the eastern Mediterranean just out. Amerikansky ship fire on Syria. We receive order from commander. We lock on American ships. They'll be gone in 4 minutes. Yes, sir. Push button. And that's it. Bye-bye, all you sailors, young women and men, all you with smiles and children, all you with families. You're going to go meet Jesus. You just had a Russian secretary make an appointment for you to see Jesus today, and you're going to.
Well, this will be war number 4 started with an attack on American naval ships. The battleship Maine, the Lusitania, Pearl Harbor, and, of course, the Gulf of Tonkin.
Right. Well, you pointed out to me, John, that these are sacrificial. They're sticking them out like, it's almost like sticking out your hand and asking for somebody with an axe to chop it off. They're just asking for trouble. And they're almost putting our sailors and our people in harm's way purposely to start a larger conflict, larger than just a Mideast war. I think America thinks it's time to take on China now before it has a blue water navy, before Russia retools from Glasnost and Perestroika, because they plan on building 100 new bases, Russia does. We shouldn't have dismissed this. Russia's not our friend. China's not our friend. They want to sell us stuff to Walmart and Tesco and all these other stores. What we need to understand, they're multi-tracking it. They want to be the next superpowers. They want to have their part of the New World Order, and they're jockeying for position on the financial system called the mark of the beast. This proxy war in Syria is over the petrodollar. This is purely over control of who is going to control the future. They don't care whether it's Syrians. Syria is like a linchpin in this final system of whether the petrodollar goes bye-bye and 30% of the world currency is shoved through American dollars. 60% of the dollars are American, 30% of petrodollars, and the other 10% is all the other currencies on Earth. But people need to understand this is a petrodollar war. That's what this is, period. Isn't it, John?
Well, it is absolutely, and there's lots of nuances. Saudi Arabia and Turkey would like to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. That's why they're doing the things they're doing. Lots of players with lots of agendas, and
they're trying to pull all these agendas together
with big weapons. You know, it's scary stuff.
Yeah, and the fact is that if anybody twitches sideways, it's almost like I have a friend. His name is Joe. I'm not going to give his last name because he's a criminal defense attorney. And he mentioned, how does a gang fight start? And what they do is everybody acts real tough, and they all got weapons, and they all got machetes and sawed-off shotguns and fully automatic weapons, and so some of them wear body armor. And then somebody twitches and thinks somebody maybe is taking a shot at them. They hear like a can fall. And they decide to just blast the guy nearest to them, and all of a sudden there's bullets flying, there's machetes flying, there's body parts in every direction, there's blood, there's screaming, there's people trying to hide, crawling behind dumpsters. That's how it starts. This is what we're talking about, a dumpster war. We're talking about a gang war, and these idiots don't realize once this gets to a certain level, they're not going to be in control anymore. And I know I hear people say foolish things like, we're the only superpower. Let me tell you, you're not too damn super when all of the daisy chain chips in your Navy are requisitioned from China. You're not too damn smart when a fishing boat can put a 25-mile up EMP weapon and take out most of the United States, and the only way you can get your power on is if you beg the Chinese to send step-down transformers. You're not too damn powerful if all of a sudden 40% of your fresh fruit comes from other countries, and now literally you've got a naval embargo against your country because you're at war and you can't get the food through to your people because you decided not to grow it in your own country. That's what we're facing. And these idiots don't realize that radiation clouds, ozone layer destruction, death of the oceans, etc., it's not good to try to breathe oxygen at 10 or 8 or 9%. It's not good to have people lose their frontal lobes. When the oxygen level gets so low, you get extreme behavior. It's not good to have a population starving where cannibalism is considered an option. That's where we're heading.
Very scary stuff. And people need to work on their spiritual preparedness, I'd say, don't you, Doctor?
Yeah, I would say, in fact, I tell people, if you don't have Jesus, don't even think about prepping. And if you're a non-believer right now, you need to call me, Dr. DEAGLE, and we'll set up a time for you to get what I call a consult. A consult where we talk to you about faith. Because you don't have faith, and you don't have Jesus, you don't have the Most High God, you don't have Yeshua HaMashiach, don't even think about it. Because you're already dead. You're already dead. You don't even have a chance. With Jesus, whether you die physically, you're not going to die spiritually. With Jesus, he's going to keep you into safe communities and safe places, and he'll protect you because he wants the people on the earth. He said, I will not abandon the earth to wickedness, which means there's no such thing as this rapture where you're going to be raptured away and taken off the earth. God wants a holy people that will serve him and be his children on this earth forever. He's not going to abandon the earth to the wicked.
The atheists and agnostics I know, that are preppers, they never ever have a feeling of being safe and prepared because of that spiritual emptiness that they have.
Right. Not only that, there's issues that only can require supernatural intervention, and it might be just God saying, move from point A to point B. And maybe all God has to do when he tells 20 people in a group to do that, and they all say, we all got the same dream or vision, and they do it. But God works in strange ways to show that no matter what, God is omniscient and omnipotent. And if we're his children and we listen, he'll protect us. That's the ultimate prep.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, and so for this week, and this is your homework, if you don't know Jesus, you don't know Yeshua HaMashiach, get your Bible out, get one if you don't have one, and after you have your barbecue and you're sitting there digesting, make sure you start thinking about what you're going to do. Prep your soul first, and then prep your body and your mind for what's coming, because you better steel yourself for the future. The future is ours to decide, is to say, God calls many, but we're the ones that are chosen. If we want to be a chosen people, we have to choose to hear and do God's will, which is to save ourselves, save our republic, and save humanity and this earth. But it's our responsibility.
They'll be calling you a radical. I got thinking about, I was so pissed off about, the RT putting this Malcolm Shield up there as nobody will give me a platform because I am the quintessential expert on Fukushima. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody in the world. I used to eat, sleep, drink this. I literally sleep with it as I'm full of AM leukemia. My tale is, anybody, you people know this tale. But I started thinking, well, fuck them. Why do I sit back and wait for somebody to give me a platform? I did my interview with Jack Nurse. I don't want to be, as I say in the more exposed manner, post-ignorance. I've read it over and over. My movement, I'm going to do my own. I'm going to do my own. I'll do my own interview with my own freaking movement. I'm going to New York City, September at 2 o'clock at Washington Square, where it should be, where I tried to coincide post-ignorance with the 100th anniversary of the shirtwaist fire. Right there. That's where they burned to death. That's what gave us this empowerment of our working class, and that's what I'm doing. And my hierarchy, I'm not this. I'm not going to sleep out in the park. I'm not, and I want everyone to march with me. I'm not going to go against, I want the cops to march with me. I want the laid-off Wall Street workers who algorithms sucked up to the top and destroyed that. I want them to march with me. I want this to be a friendly but loving but strong, powerful movement. The poetry and cordial conversations are dangerous. Passionate, intelligent arguments. My hierarchy, there's a reason it didn't happen then. Fukushima happened. Fukushima. So I'll go. I don't care if not one person. I want Occupy to march with me. I want Anonymous to march with me. I want the Peace Lover Cindy Sheehan's group to march with me. I want everybody to coincide, but it has to be there. It has to be at Washington Square. That's where every movement, every really worked happened. Everyone that really worked happened. And they all started with a very small group of people. As the shirtwaist fire is so iconic, there's a reason Fukushima happened 3/11/11, right before the 100th anniversary. It changed my heart. It changed everything. As I got leukemia, AML leukemia, 6 months later, and was given less than a 1% chance to live. I want people to understand nuclear fallout. Oh, we have technology to cure cancer. I'm in the #1 bone marrow transplant in the world. It was a YouTube video that saved my life. Our survival rate Everybody in there's passed. Our survival rate is so low post-Fukushima. My doctors have verified it. I'm going to march from Washington Square with my post-ignorant sign and my science fiction economics as I have it. .com bubble, housing bubble, hope bubble. I'm going to march from there to Alexander Hamilton's grave at Trinity Church, the man who gave us tariffs. The Coast Guard, the first thing, to the Exchange Building right there, the foundation of this country that was founded, this country. Tariffs. Right there to New York Harbor. I'm going to march right there to Lookout Over Battery Park to the Statue of Liberty. This is a worldwide, and I don't care if one single person marches with me. Not one. Because I have this camera. And I have my army, and I hope this encompasses everybody. And I'm starting this movement over. Post-ignorance. I have a hierarchy. You know I've read my hierarchy of needs over and over. 1, tariffs. Why? We don't need to raise taxes in this country. We don't need to raise taxes in this country. We need to close loopholes for the corporate scum and allow them to quit. As Alexander Hamilton said, we need to empower, enlighten our populace. We are not the Queen system. We are the American system. We will use tariffs to stop cheap Chinese goods. The Chinese will still import, which the Chinese aren't the Chinese. They're American companies just using Chinese slaves. That's all they are. We will charge 45% tariff of any of their good. You know, you say, oh, my Walmart bill will go up. Good. So will your wages by 10 times. We want usury laws back in. We want antitrust laws enforced. We want white-collar criminals to be... We want equity in all. We want to empower our children and give them a chance to suck air and live. But we have a new hierarchy, number 1 and foremost, to stop the genocide of the mighty blue Pacific. We want Fukushima entombed. The cover-up of Fukushima, riding at the levels raised. We want Gina McCarthy held accountable. We want the NSC. We want the nuclear industry that lies. As Megan Rice, we want her set free. She calls it nuclearism. We want the Patriot Act repealed, taking away all our rights. We want NSA gone. I mean gone. All of it. I have my hierarchy. And I'm going to go to Washington Square. I'll lay this out more in detail. September 20th at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I'm going to start right there in Washington Square. This is going to be a peaceful, loving march with all encompassed and everybody with me. I want the police to march with me. I want the children to march with me. I want autism people. I'm autistic. I know why I'm autistic. Nuclear fallout. I want nuclearism to end. I want the freaking, all the spent fuel sitting on site in all these freaking 104 planes to be either put in the National Depository at Yucca Mountain or shot into space. I want the nuclear industry over. Over. I want Fukushima entombed. I'll lay this out more in detail. September, 1 o'clock, Washington Square. I'll march from there to the Trinity Church where Alexander Hamilton's grave is there, to the Exchange Building where we set up tariffs, and the Coast Guard. I want the Coast Guard to march with me over to, through Battery Park and look out over the Statue of Liberty. Stand tuned.
It's too late for billions. War, viruses, disease, chemtrails, aliens, FEMA, NDAA, NWO, Illuminati, Olympics, radiation. It's an attack today, line after line after line after line. Hope you've been growing your own food, because you're going to need it. You better learn how to can and preserve. Grieving more now, because there won't be any time.
What the fuck is that? Oh my god! Oh my god! What the fuck? Rico! What the fuck is that?